Hey y'all, thank you very much for tuning in today. Hope you guys are having a most excellent Fursuit Friday. Looking forward to an amazing weekend. I know I am. I'm going on a very long journey for the weekend, so I will be away from the computer for a while. But today I want to talk to you guys about the differences between tracing and taking inspiration from other people's artwork. And why one of them is perfectly legit and, something I encourage people to do when they are learning. And the other one is scummy, low down, and just wrong. And it is something I have encountered more than once when looking at other people's arts. And I'm like, hold on a minute, that ain't right. And sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference. There are some people who can take inspiration from other people's art and mirror it very closely. But I want to go through what the differences are and why one is okay and the other isn't. So first up, what is the difference between tracing and taking inspiration from someone else's art? Well, the main difference is one is having one piece of art that you really admire and trying to do something similar yourself, whereas the other is having one piece that you really admire and literally just copying it line for line, verbatim. And when you're taking inspiration from someone else's art, when you've got a piece of art there that you really like and you want to draw something similar, you are still physically putting in the skill yourself. While you do have someone else's art in front of you, that you are essentially trying to do the same thing, you are not physically copying them, rather you are putting in the effort yourself in your own picture and just using the reference picture for, say, the pose, or for the outfit, or for elements that you really like, while still putting in the effort in yourself, which is why I think it's perfectly legitimate to reference or take inspiration from other people's art. Now, hopefully, with the magic of editing, you should be seeing a couple of pieces of my artwork coming up, which I actually took inspiration from some 1930s pin-up art. I didn't copy them, I just had the piece there, and I wanted to draw these characters in the same pose. Now, that, in my opinion, is perfectly legit. I haven't physically copied the artwork line for line. I've just had it up on my screen while I was drawing on paper. And taking inspiration from other people's artwork is perfectly legit. Whereas copying is where you have the other person's artwork, you put your piece of paper over the top, or in the case of modern technology, you have it as a background layer and you put a layer over the top on the editing program, and you literally draw your lines over the lines of the original artist. Usually without any changes other than to the character itself. So in the case of a picture I'm bringing up for you guys now, you should be seeing I don't know the name of the character, but it's from Overwatch, and then the furry version that someone has literally traced the basics of the picture verbatim, and as you can see, when they were called out on it, the person calling them out actually did an overlay of the original picture and their copy, one on top of the other, and showed that the lines were verbatim exactly the same. One of the biggest problems, I think, with this, other than copying someone else's artwork yourself and essentially being a blatant liar, is the fact that you won't learn by doing this. I mean, you will learn to copy other people's artwork, but you will not learn how to do the proportions yourself. You will not learn how to lay out a picture yourself. Whereas if you, take inspiration from other people's artwork, have it up but draw it yourself, you will learn how to get those proportions the same manually. You will learn how to do it yourself. You will improve in your art skill. As copying, you're just going to be another photocopier. And while I'm not going to rag on people who want to do it for their own personal art, when you're doing it for commissions, which is something I have seen, in fact, the picture I showed you earlier from the I think it's Fortnite or Overwatch character, that was actually done on commission by a local artist for another local furry. When you're doing it on commission for someone, that's even worse, because you are essentially false advertising. You were saying, I can do this kind of art, when really you can't. You are literally just copying someone. You are literally just a photocopier with a couple of edits to make it look like the character. And not only are you lying to the customer about your own ability, but you are actually taking the business away from honest artists out there who have the ability to draw the characters as the customer wants. You are taking the money out of their pocket, out of honest artists' pocket, and putting it in your deceiving pocket because you have the ability to photocopy someone. So doing commission art using copying and tracing is, it is an extra low kind of scummy. Whereas if a customer comes to you and says, can you draw my character in this pose, and you reference that pose but draw it yourself manually, that's perfectly legit. That is perfectly reasonable, because you are still doing the manual side of it yourself. And if someone did an overlay of the original piece and your version that you've done, you will see that there will be differences in the pose. They might be subtle, they might be quite major, but it won't be a one-for-one match because you've actually drawn it yourself. You've actually put in the effort. And on a side note, and a very related note, going from art to fursuit making, I have noticed a lot of people have been buying pre-made fursuit bases online, taking them, furring them up, and claiming it entirely as their own work. Again, I think this is very much a copy-pasting, cheaty, kind of scummy thing to do, because you're essentially saying, I can sculpt this lovely base myself and I can make these fursuits. And then people are taking commissions based on fursuit bases and not sculpting that they've done themselves. I mean, I realise that, you know, the furring side of things is quite an effort, is quite a skill-intensive job. But at the end of the day, it's not entirely their work, but they are passing it off as their work using pre-made bases they've bought online and not crediting the original base maker. When they credit the original base maker, perfectly legit, not an issue for me. But when you see them buying, like, you know, pre-made bases and claiming they did the entire work themselves, or worse, we have had an encounter where someone has come to Conifer's Creations with a pre-made base, asked her to fur it, Conifer furred it quite happily, credited the original artist of the fursuit base, and then the person who bought it went away and said they did all the fursuit work. Which, you know, is a bit of a scummy thing to do as well, you know, taking credit for someone else's work entirely. But I'm going off on a bit of a tangent there. You know, getting pre-made fursuit bases and claiming it for your own work entirely, just like copying, just like tracing, kind of a scummy thing to do. So how can you spot tracers and how can you avoid them when you're looking for an artist to commission? Well, one of the easiest things to do is check to see if they have a consistent style. Now, tracers will often move from one artist to another when they are tracing their artwork, and often you will see in their artwork that their art has a very inconsistent style. It may just be that the artist has a very inconsistent style anyway, but more likely than not, if they're going from, you know, one piece to the next is almost completely different in the styling, the eyes are different, the mouths are different, the entire head shape is different, and that keeps happening from picture to picture. It's not a certainty, but there is a chance that that person is just tracing various pieces of artwork, and that's why they can't get their styles consistent. It may just be that they have an inconsistent style, and that does happen. My style has fluctuated over the years, but I think there's a good chance. The other way is if there's a sudden massive increase in their ability. Now this one, it may just be that they've gone offline for a while and practiced like crazy. But if you see an artist whose skill has been, you know, and then suddenly they knock out a banger and then another banger, and it's been like 3 days between the bangers and the art, there is a good chance that them bangers have been traced or copied in some way. Again, it's not certain. They may have just gone offline and, you know, thrown in a shitload of practice. I don't know. But it's a good indicator that they may have done some tracing. And the third way to look for tracers, and the way that we actually found the example I posted earlier of the, I think it's Overwatch character who got traced, is when there is a rather popular piece of artwork out there that you have seen online before, and then suddenly a very similar piece of artwork appears, but with a different character. And while you do get your character here slots where artists be like, you know, they'll put up 5 slots to draw the same same pose with different characters, that does happen these days. When it is like, you know, one is like official artwork and the other is not official artwork but furry somehow, and they both got the exact same and it's blatant they've been done on the same lines, that is a certain way of finding that that person is a tracer. And while I'm certain every artist has at some point traced just a little bit, just to, you know, do something, I do highly discourage it. If you're an artist learning and you want to learn the proper way, don't trace. It really does not improve your skill. All you learn to be is a photocopier. Please get the reference art up and try and do it in your style. You will find you will improve so much better. Trust me, I'm talking from experience here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like, subscribe. If you have art pages, drop the links in the description below. I want to check out some people's art pages. Maybe do a top 5 new artists that I've just found video. post that. So please, if you have an art page, drop a link in the description below and I will check you out. Other than that, you have a most excellent day, an amazing weekend, and I will see you guys in the next video. Okay, take care, ta-ra.